The U.S. men's basketball team brought home the gold in Paris in the Olympics this year, but already people are starting to question what's 2028 going to look like when they go to L.A. Is the United States in big, big trouble? That's right. 2028, the Olympics come to L.A. You know what? I think there's still a hell of a lot of talent for the U.S. to pull from. So let's break down a roster. What could the U.S. Olympic roster look like in 2028? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Do me a favor, everybody. Hit the subscribe button. Just do it right now. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and while you're at it, go ahead and like this video. Appreciate you all. Now, let's dive into what this roster could look like, but let's start off with some painful losses. These are the players that are not going to be returning for the 2028 Olympics. Starting things off with LeBron James, who was the primary ball handler for the team this past year in the Olympics, did a phenomenal job. At 39 years old, LeBron may be a cyborg. Maybe he plays till he's 50. But I doubt it. He even admitted that he's probably not going to be around to play in 2028. Steph Curry went berserk in the final two games in Paris. An incredible three-point shooting display. Some people want to argue that he should have gotten the MVP award over LeBron James. I'm not one of them, but hey, I'm a little bit biased there. But Steph Curry, fantastic run in the Olympics this year. 35 years old, though. I don't think he'll be around for 2028. Similarly, Kevin Durant, again, maybe the greatest U.S. men's basketball player we've ever seen when you look at the totality of his run with U.S. men's basketball, but there's just no way. KD, the Slim Reaper, I'm so glad he's finally embracing that nickname. He was crucial to the U.S.'s success in Paris, but there's no way he's going to be around either. Joel Embiid, look, he suffered a long injury history. Yes, guys in their mid-30s, which he will be in 2028. They played this year in Paris, but given Embiid's injuries and the fact that he wasn't even the best big on the roster, we're going to talk about Anthony Davis in just a minute. Joel Embiid, I don't think he'll be back for 2028 for the United States. I also look at Jrue Holiday, 34 years old. By 38, look, defense tends to go first. That lateral quickness tends to go. Give a lot of credit to Jrue Holiday, who's actually one of my favorite players to watch on the U.S. team this year, but there's no way he's still going to be around in 2028, at least at that level. And then Derek White, maybe a little bit of a controversial one. Derek White just barely made the team, and I thought he was a worthy addition. A lot of people want to complain and say, oh, it should have been Jaylen Brown. I get it. Jaylen Brown's a tremendous player. I'm going to right that wrong on the 2028 roster, but Derek White, I thought, did a solid job in an important role on the defensive side of the ball for the United States, but he'll be 34 years old in 2028. I know Jrue Holiday played at 34 years old this year. They had a number of older players playing this year. I just don't think Derek White's talent level is quite as high as the guys like Kevin Durant, the guys like Steph Curry, even a Jrue Holiday, where once they get older, they're still able to contribute at a meaningful level. So Derek White, a player I like a lot. I think he'll still be really good in the NBA at that point, but I think he'll be below the cutoff for the Olympics. So with those six leaving the roster, who sticks around? Who stays? First and foremost, Anthony Davis, probably the most controversial pick. 2028, what kind of shape will Anthony Davis be in? He played phenomenally at 31 years old. He'll be 35 in 2028. But as I said, the Olympics, they're in LA. There's no certainty that Anthony Davis will still be a Laker at that point, but I think if he is, that's going to help his cause. And once again, he was the United States' best big this year. When you look at the consistency across the board, you look at what he brought to the team. AD was getting the job done. I think his versatility plays out very well, particularly on the defensive side of the ball in the international game. So I've got AD in a roster spot next Olympics. And I know what some of you are going to say, 76ers fans. You're going to say, wait. Anthony Davis gets injured too. How can you eliminate Joel Embiid, who gets banged up, and have AD on the roster? Again, AD was simply better, so I'm giving him the spot. The much maligned Jason Tatum makes the team. Look, let's face it. I think it's fair to criticize Steve Kerr for his usage of Jason Tatum. Tatum can play both sides of the ball. He's a good defensive player. In fact, I think he's going to be critical for the success of the United States in 2028. The United States, they're going to need to replace Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry. That's a big ask, right? But some of these guys, they're going to grow. Their basketball abilities will continue to improve, and that's what I think Jason Tatum is going to be. He is going to go from being the guy who didn't play in some of the games for the United States this go round. He's going to become one of the central pieces for this team in the 2028 Olympics. They're going to need him to step up in a big, big way, which means the next few years in the NBA, he has to continue his rise and fully insert himself as one of the top players in the league. Right now, I've got him a tier below some of those top guys. When we look at Luka, you look at Jokic, you look at SGA, players like that, all international players. The United States badly needs Jason Tatum to continue his rise and to be a central figure for this team in 2028. Speaking of a player that's on the rise, Anthony Edwards, clearly coming back. I know he thinks he's the best. Anthony Edwards, you're not. Not yet. Anyway, he's on the right trajectory. By 2028, Anthony Edwards will be in his prime, and I can't wait to see what kind of player he is. I was disappointed with him in Paris, particularly when he was handling the ball in pick and roll situations. It got a little bit sloppy. He had some other good plays, and I liked what we saw out of him on the defensive side of the ball. Anthony Edwards, an easy pick for the 2028 team, because I think by then he'll have all of the rough edges in his game all smoothed out and will be a full-fledged superstar in the NBA and on the international stage. Devin Booker will be 31 years old. You know what? I'll admit, I wasn't the biggest Devin Booker guy coming into the Olympics, but I thought Devin Booker was making big plays on both sides of the ball. And frankly, the way this roster is going to be built out, the United States is probably going to need Devin Booker to fill in a ball handling role. That's one thing that the 2028 team right now, some of the ball handling responsibilities a little bit fuzzy where that's going to fall. Devin Booker is going to be really important. Again, 31 years old. He'll be still, I think, in his prime, and I think his decision-making is going to be even better. I was impressed with Devin Booker in this year's Olympics. He's going to be a big-time player in 2028. Also add into that mix Tyrese Halliburton. Speaking of a ball handler, he was often the de facto 12th man who didn't get minutes in games. He poked a bit of fun at himself, saying that he's like that kid in a group project that gets the A despite not having to do any of the work. Look, a great sense of humor for Tyrese Halliburton, but he's a wonderful ball handler. He's great at setting up teammates, and I think he will be a really important piece for Team USA in 2028. Rounding out the returning guys, Bam Adebayo. He and Anthony Davis together just make such a great duo. His versatility on the defensive side of the ball, his ability to rebound the basketball, and he even showcased the corner three in 2024. So by 2028, hopefully that is an even bigger part of his arsenal. So I've got Bam Adebayo locked in. All right, so there's the returners. Let's get into the new guys. Let's round out this roster. Who else is going to be playing for Team USA? And then I'm going to give you guys the players who just barely missed the cut. So the guys that are going to be joining Team USA in 2028 to round out this roster, let's kick it off with Jaylen Brown. I know there was a lot of talk about why it was Derek White and not Jaylen Brown. And I don't disagree with Steve Kerr for picking Derek White. I think skill set wise, he made a lot of sense. But let's face it, the ceiling is simply higher with Jaylen Brown. And by 2028, kind of like Jason Tatum, I expect Jaylen Brown to be at the height of his powers. I think you're going to need him on the wing. The more wings, the merrier. And so Jaylen Brown is 100% going to be on the 2028 roster. But you're going to need another big. Remember, I said Joel Embiid, he's out. Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, they're staying. You know who else is joining the mix? It's Chet Holmgren. Young big for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think OKC is set up to win for a long time. Chet Holmgren's versatility on both offense and defense is going to be instrumental. In fact, I think he's going to become one of the best big men in the NBA by 2028, and he will be a major piece to the middle. AD, while I called him the best big man on this year's roster, I don't think he's going to be able to log quite as heavy minutes in 2028 when he's 35 years old. I'm looking for Chet Holmgren to step into a big role in 2028 with Team USA. Also jumping into the mix, speaking of a young player, maybe this is a little bit controversial, but Cooper Flagg, I know he's not even in the NBA yet, but you look at his versatility on both sides of the ball, you look at what he can do defensively, there's some really great things in his game that scream international play. I think he's going to be the top pick in the draft in 2025. And by 2028, I think he'll have his professional legs under him enough to where he will be on the 2028 U.S. roster. He is that good. He's coming to the NBA. Somebody is going to get lucky in the draft in 2025 and be able to take him first overall. From there, let's jump to a guy who is really important for Team USA. Last year in the World Cup, his game translates extremely well to the international style, and that's Paolo Banchero, a fantastic young player for the Orlando Magic right now. I think he's the kind of guy whose game may be even better at the international level. We talk about Olympic Melo. And the way Carmelo Anthony's game transitioned extremely well to international play, Kevin Durant's game also transitions extremely well. I think the same can be said for Paolo Banchero, his ability to give you some rebounding, his ability to provide some rim protection, and of course, the scoring from the wing, the size, the physicality. I think Paolo Banchero is going to be a lock for this team in 2028. I think you could have made an argument for him to be involved with this year's team. I don't blame them for not putting him on the list. I'd put other guys ahead of him, even as reserves. But Paolo Banchero, I think, will be a big piece in 2028. Looking at the roster right now, it's pretty clear that they're still lacking ball handling. We only have Tyrese Halliburton as the true point guard on the team currently. That's going to need to be fixed. I'm not going to get there quite yet, though. With the roster build as is, Devin Booker's going to have to take on some ball handling responsibilities, but also we're going to add in Cade Cunningham, who handles the basketball quite a bit for the Detroit Pistons. I know right now the Pistons are down bad, but Cade Cunningham is a phenomenal player, very versatile, averaging over 7 assists per game last season with Detroit. They put the ball in his hands, and he's got experience playing a little bit at the national level and really showing out against Team USA guys. We saw that last year with the World Cup players. So Cade Cunningham, I think, is going to be in the mix in 2028. And given the way this is starting to round out, I know there's a lot of wings, and I'm fine with having a lot of wings, but they've got to be able to handle the basketball and defend multiple positions. And I think that Cade Cunningham's going to be is already a guy who can do those things, but he's going to be even better at it come 2028. So I'm going to add some ball handling here with Cade Cunningham. I still need another true point guard, though, and this is where we get into honorable mention category, because in my mind, there's 3 guys that we should really be keeping an eye on here for the other point guard position, and that's Jalen Brunson, Ja Morant, and De'Aaron Fox. And you can make an argument for any of those 3. So if you want to tell me, Lane, you are crazy to pick, well, spoiler alert, Jalen Brunson. You want to tell me you're crazy to pick Jalen Brunson? It should be De'Aaron Fox. It should be Ja Morant. Hey, more power to you. These guys are all phenomenal players. I'm going to go Jalen Brunson right now. I think his fit into the team concept in New York is going to make him an important asset to Team USA. But De'Aaron Fox is a phenomenal player, one of my favorites in the league. The speed, the pace that he plays with, and the improving outside shot, you can make a really strong argument for him too. And then Ja Morant is just so talented. Honestly, I think he probably goes the opposite way of guys like Paolo Banchero, Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant, guys whose game actually translates super well to FIBA play. I think Ja Morant's game probably doesn't translate that well because he's not known as a great defensive player. He's not known as a great outside shooter. Maybe that changes. I think of those 3 players in terms of ceiling, who's got the highest ceiling? It's Ja Morant. But the problem is in FIBA, they can pack the paint. And Ja, he thrives getting into the paint, getting to the rim. And I just have some concerns about how well that particular skill set is going to translate. So I'm going to go with Jalen Brunson in this situation. But again, you want to make an argument for any of those 3 guys, have at it. Also want to give a couple of other honorable mention shout outs to Jaren Jackson Jr. Should any of those 3 bigs not be able to go, Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, or Chet Holmgren, Jaren Jackson Jr. would get the nod for me. Does have Team USA experience, played with the World Cup squad last year. And then Donovan Mitchell, obviously a tremendously talented guard, just barely missed the cut. And it's really just because there's so many wings already on the roster. I needed more guys who are true ball handlers. Donovan Mitchell can certainly do it, but I opted to look elsewhere. Mikal Bridges, again, so many wings on the roster right now. I wasn't comfortable bumping any of them in favor of Bridges. Does have Team USA experience, so could wind up being an inclusion on the roster. But personally, I would go with Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Cade Cunningham as my true wings ahead of Mikal Bridges. And so ultimately, that's where he didn't wind up getting a spot. But you know what, everybody? Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about my roster? Here is the full Team USA roster for 2028. This is a roster that I think, yes, they lost LeBron. Yes, they lost Steph. Yes, they lost Kevin Durant. I think this roster can still bring home the gold. The full roster. It is Anthony Davis, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, Bam Adebayo, Tyrese Halliburton, Jaylen Brown, Chet Holmgren, Cooper Flagg, Cade Cunningham, Paolo Banchero, and Jalen Brunson. And once again, you got to project forward a little bit. These younger guys, it's not Chet Holmgren today, it's Chet Holmgren 4 years from now. It's not Paolo Banchero today, it's Paolo Banchero 4 years from now. Think about where some of these young guys are going to be at that point, the trajectories that they're on right now. I think that's really exciting, and I think Team USA is going to be in good shape in 2028. Let me know if you agree in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Till next time, everybody. See ya, and stay safe.